provide you with a brief orientation to the interface. We are using a web conferencing tool called Adobe Connect. Your browser right now is showing the title for today's webinar. Audio is set to mute. On the left-hand side of your screen, you will see a chat box where you can read and type messages. Using the controls at the bottom of the chat box, you can send messages to everyone or to a specific person. I'll be monitoring the general chat area for questions and comments for our presenter. If you have technical problems, send that message to Ashley Garcia. If you've missed a part of today's webinar, or if you want to see some or all of it again, all Teaching and Technology live webinars are archived and available on the CRTE website. Feel free to come back as often as you like. At the bottom left window, you can download a copy of our speaker slides by clicking on the file and save to My Computer. And now for today's Web 2.0 webinar featuring web conferencing tools, I turn it over to Mike Trong.
Thank you, Ashley. Well, welcome to our two participants. And we are going to be talking about web conferencing tool. And I want to emphasize that this is going to be somewhat of a meta web conferencing because we're using a web conferencing tool and we'll be talking about web conferencing tool. So hopefully it will all work out, but welcome again. In this particular presentation, I want to leave you with three things, essentially. First is that you'll learn more about Web 2.0 tools and the potential impact on teaching and learning. Sort of that's the general goal that we want you to walk away with. Second is that we want you to have a better understanding of web conferencing tools. And in particular, today we'll be featuring three of these types of tools. They're going to be Adobe Connect Pro, which is the one we're currently using for this webinar, and also another conferencing tool called View, and then the last one would be TeamViewer. And then the third outcome that we'd like you to walk away with is that you would be able to explore possible use cases in your own situation and understand some of the key features and then be able to apply it in your own situation. So first let me go over the Web 2.0 and what that is and emphasize three particular characteristics of Web 2.0. So essentially, Web 2.0 refers to common applications or services such as blogs, video sharing, social networking, and podcasting. And it, as a result, results in a more socially connected web in which people can contribute as much as they can consume. So it's very different from Web 1.0, where it's mostly a consuming kind of experience. People just read something and that's it. But whereas in Web 2.0, not only do they read, but they're also generating their own content. So that's sort of the difference between the first and the second generation of web. In particular, there are three characteristics that I want to emphasize that's related to web conferencing tools. First is that the web as a platform. Software is delivered through the web and as a service. And if you can just imagine, a lot of web conferencing tools today can be done directly through the web browser. And that's all you really need. You don't need to download any applications. You don't need to do anything except have a web browser and internet connection. However, there is that one tool that I'll be talking about, the TeamViewer, that does require an application to be downloaded, but it's a very, very small application, and you can do that, pretty much really quickly and not have to worry about any installation problems or anything like that. So that's the one thing I want to emphasize about web conferencing tools, is that web as at the platform. Number 6 is about multi-device. Applications are written to be useful beyond a single device, and this is the idea here, that because it is web-based, you can access it through a mobile handset like a smartphone, or you can have a tablet, or you can have a netbook or a laptop, and any of those devices, or a desktop computer, and you can access these tools. And that's then the beauty of Web 2.0, is that as long as you have a device that connects to the internet, most likely you would be able to use these web conferencing tool. And I'll emphasize, talk specifically about the Adobe Connect, because it really gives you, if you have a tablet or an iPhone, there's actually an app, Adobe Connect Pro app, that you can download and use that, and you would be actually be able to listen to this webinar using that app right now. So, and then the third characteristic of Web 2.0 I want to emphasize here is that there's a rich user experience. The idea here is that the web is intensely rich with text, sound, animation, video interactions, and through web conferencing, it's kind of like a video chat. You can see, you can hear, you can interact. So it's a very rich kind of interaction, rich set of experience that the participants would be able to participate in. Um, so Web 2.0 learning, and what does that have to, all the web conferencing to, and what does that have to do with sort of these things that we're talking about here? Here again, I want to emphasize 3 of the characteristics that's listed. First is that it enables ubiquitous learning. Students can collaborate with anyone, anytime, anywhere, and on any device. And that's really opening up the classroom in a way that hasn't been possible before. When learning happens in the classroom, oftentimes in the past, you would sort of, when the class ends, that's where learning kind of stops. But with web conferencing tool, the classroom can be extended so that students are able to continue that conversation online, or an instructor is able to continue with a presentation that may take longer than the class time period and be able to do that online. So it really does enable ubiquitous learning. Another feature of Web 2.0 that I think is related to web conferencing tool is this idea that it fosters social interaction. Students explore, they share, they engage, they connect with people and content in a meaningful way that really wasn't possible. Now you can, with web conferencing tool, you can upload a document and you could be able to, as a group, talk about that document and discuss that document in a way that allows for the visual learner as well as for those who are just wanting just to sit back and listen. And so it enables that kind of interaction in a way that was not possible, or it was only limited in the classroom. And then the third characteristic is this idea of accommodating varying modes of learning. Students who are uncomfortable, maybe in the classroom setting in terms of speaking up, because there's that sort of fear of public speaking, may feel actually more comfortable in a web conferencing format, because all they do is really, they're facing the screen and they have a headset on, they can talk, and that it may reduce some of the fear that they may have in public speaking. And just the ability to be able to control kind of what you're viewing and to have notes around you. I mean, all that is also very helpful for those who may not be comfortable speaking in public. So, so those are kind of basic things I wanted to touch on. And now I want to sort of dive a little deeper into web conferencing tools themselves. So web conferencing tools enable real-time communication interaction and have led to sort of innovative opportunities for instructors and students to collaborate. In particular, I believe that the web conferencing tools have helped to extend the traditional classroom in 6 particular ways, and I'm going to quickly note these. The first is that it really extends a traditional classroom. Holding classes in virtual rooms, it removes the physical limitations of the traditional classrooms. Regardless of location, instructors and students can attend class virtually, and this is more related to sort of online courses, but there are some hybrid courses that are also benefiting from this virtual classroom setup. And since most web conferencing tools allow for the recording of the session itself, and along with the material, sort of what we're doing exactly here, students can come back to the material, review it, and be able to reference things in a way that wasn't possible with a real class setting. So it does provide a lot of advantages. Second is that the web meetings and workshops that you can do with web conferencing tool, there might be instances where an instructor might want to conduct a web meeting or workshop virtually because, for example, a review session or having student conferences or workshops of some particular topic that they can't cover in class. And so having the web conferencing tool enables instructor to facilitate the material either synchronously, like live, or asynchronously. Instructor can actually just record what they want to present and just archive it and put it on the web, and then students can then come back and view it at their own time. So it's in situations where, let's say, a teacher has to be at a conference and can't hold class, instead of canceling class, they can actually do their session online, record it, and then ask the students to watch it or to interact with it when it's time for class amongst themselves. Uh, Third is the idea of presentations. A lot of classes now have presentation projects, and having a web conferencing tool, students can use it to showcase their work and do it in real time without sort of the physical limitations. I remember when I was teaching, and we would have these class projects that students would have to present, and we would take up almost 2 weeks sometimes going through every single one's project, and that was very time consuming, and I used a lot of the class time. By using a web conferencing tool, students can record what they're presenting and then just put it up on the web, and then as a class individually students can view their peers' presentation, or the instructor can view it on their own time and be able to grade it, and there's more time to sort of process and digest the material in a way that you can't do in real life, face-to-face kind of situation. Fourth is that this idea of group collaboration can happen a lot easier online between instructors and students and among students. Meeting a physical space, especially at UC Merced, can be difficult because there's a lack of meeting rooms and classrooms and so forth. And to have just a virtual space where you can just meet anytime, I think really is advantageous. And so participants, especially for students who may be living off campus and they're part of a study group or they're part of a work group, but then having to commute to campus and park and walk up the hill and so on, they can avoid all that by just having a web conference and a group collaboration on the web conferencing tool, and that would sort of free up everybody to just log on wherever they're at. Supplemental office hours is also something that instructors have used. The idea is the operative word is supplemental. It's not replacing your traditional face-to-face office hours, but it's adding to that. And this may be useful for students who may not be able to attend office hours during your regular time if you're an instructor, or sometimes students just prefer to have office hours in awkward times, like in the evenings or on the weekends or something. And if an instructor is willing to open to that possibility, then having a virtual web conferencing office hour is actually a great way to do that. And then finally, the idea of inviting guest speakers without worrying about the cost. If you are teaching in class and you know of a great speaker, but they're from another state or from East Coast or wherever, it may cost a lot of money for them to fly in, to have a hotel, and the logistics of car rental and all that. You can eliminate all that by just bringing your guest speaker through using the web conferencing tool. So definitely a very, very viable option, and that's been used actually in many fields regularly. So those are kind of some of the things that you can do with web conferencing tool. Let me now shift you to talking about the first tool, which is the Adobe Connect, which is what we're currently using. So Adobe Connect is a rich web-based communication tool that enables instructors to reach students anytime with engaging multimedia content. And we didn't activate the video component, as you can see in this screen here, the little slide. But you can have, if everybody who's participating today has a webcam, we can turn on that feature, and you would be able to see all the individuals who was part of that, including the hosts and the participants, and that would be a really great way to kind of get more personal, to be able to see people's faces, and that's something in the classroom setting I think it would make more sense. Also, you can see on the slide here, there's on the top right this idea of a polling. Adobe Connect has a survey tool that is built in, and you can poll your constituents, your participants, and get a sort of immediate feedback. And that's something that we don't really utilize in our webinar, but that's something that is possible. And then also on the left-hand side of your screen right now, you can see that there's a chat window. So if you want to add something, that's like a hi everyone, I can do that, and everybody would be able to see. And so it's really a great way to use sort of some of the, there's people can talk on the one hand, but then there's a back channel of the chat that happens there. And then there's also the presentation slides that you can get from, let's say if you want to download the slides I'm using for later use review, you can. On the bottom left of your screen, you see the presentation slide, and all you do is just click on it and then save it to your computer. And that's something that you can do if you're teaching a class and you have an assignment you're talking about, or you have a handout or something you want to distribute. You can add that to this slide, this list of document, and students can download it as they're watching you talk about it. So that's another neat feature. Other things about Adobe Connect some of the features of Adobe Connect that would be sort of useful to point out is the different roles that are available. As you can see on the left-hand side, you see the different categories of roles. There's the host. Ashley and I are sort of the host of this. I mean, I should probably be the presenter, but we're effectively both host and presenter. And then the participants are the people who attend this. And so you can kind of designate, if you're the instructor, you're the host, and then if you have sort of different presenters, put them as presenters. And each of these roles basically have different permissions. They can do different things on this system. So it's one of those things that just use according to your context. Each of these panels that you see on the left, on the very top, you see a little picture of me. That's considered a pod. The chat window is a pod. So there are different pods that are available. There's one for attendees, one for notes, one for chats, one for files, videos, sharing, and I think a few others. But the layout, you can essentially, referring to Belinda's comment about that they have a layout that's a little different, and that is definitely true. I mean, different organizations I've used Adobe Connect use it differently, and you can set up the layout however way you want. And I don't know if you remember when we went from the welcome screen to the sharing screen, that some of the layout changed a little bit, and then once I shift over to the desktop sharing, it will also change again. So the layout is very customizable and flexible. And then finally, this session is being recorded as of right now, and so you can actually watch this later on. We'll put this on our CRT website under the Teaching Technology series, and that's something that's really, I think, great with a lot of these web conferencing tools, is that anybody doing or talking or showing something, that can be recorded and then be available for viewing later on, and that's a great resource for a lot of the students that I've talked to. And so let me now shift quickly to View. View is another web-based web conferencing tool, and this is where, I mean, it's a free service compared to Adobe Connect, which is a paid service. And I think Adobe Connect currently, if you're part of an academic unit, you can probably, I think, pay $35 for a month for up to like I don't know, 50 users or 50 participants or something. I can't remember. We have a contract through UC Davis. So if you want more information about the Adobe Connect, just contact me and I can give you more details. But View is a free service up to 10 users, and I think for a lot of classes this might be the better solution because it doesn't cost anything. And there's no installation again because it's web-based. There's some of the features include sort of the whiteboard, the video sharing, the screen sharing, and the voice over IP, which is what VoIP stands for. And essentially what that is that's exactly what you're listening to. You're not having to use a phone to hear the audio. All the audio is coming through the web in the same way that the video is. And so View kind of allows you to do that. And I believe that they provide a service for someone to call in, but I think that's a charge per minute. So if in a situation where someone doesn't have a reliable internet and they're the presenter, they would probably want to call in on the phone as opposed to using the VoIP functionality. The other thing about View that's, I think, neat, I'll show you in a little bit, is the annotation and the collaboration kind of piece on the content. Once a piece of content is uploaded, you can really interact with it in a way that is neat. It makes you feel like you're in the same room with somebody else, and that's something that a lot of these web conferencing tool allows you to do. And so, and then lastly, I want to just quickly turn to TeamViewer, and then I'll show you the demo of View and TeamViewer. So TeamViewer is a very small application you download, And it is also free for a private user, meaning if you just don't use this to make money, or if you're not part of a company to using it on like a large scale, then you should be able to use it for free. And you can have up to 25 participants, which is more than adequate for a lot of the smaller classes, or if you're trying to hold office hours, I think that would probably be plenty. And like Adobe Connect Pro, TeamViewer has a mobile. It's mobile enabled. I'm not sure about View, the second web conferencing tool I just talked about, whether or not they have a mobile app or not. But TeamViewer has one for the iOS, which is the Apple, the Android device, and the BlackBerry, and you can just download this and use it on your mobile devices. And so, again, it's very, very small program you download, and essentially once you can see the interface here. It's actually, TeamViewer started as a remote desktop kind of program where you can, if you load it on your desktop, you can then access your desktop anywhere. You have internet access, and recently they've added this component of the meeting, which is what I'll show you in a little bit. So, so those are essentially the big overview of these tools. Let me now give you the actual. So I'm gonna shift over to the sharing my screen so that you can. I will first talk about View, which is the, so here is View. So this is what the interface looks like. You see here on the very top this menu of options that you can use, and I created a sample test page, and here you can see I opened up the annotation page. It's just a whiteboard essentially, and here's my pencil, and I can draw on it. And if you're part of this site, I gave you the test URL, so later on you can come back and add to it if you want. But so it gives you a whiteboard. You can draw on it. You can type on it, like what I have here. Here's a little testing typing thing that I'm doing. So, and then you can also do sticky notes. Here is a sticky note. So there are a lot of interactions that you can have with a whiteboard that would be nice. So if you guys are if there's a project that a group of students are doing and it's some diagramming or some sort of feedback on some image, then this is a great way to use this tool. Another way to use this tool is to upload a URL, which is what I did. So I uploaded a URL of our CRTE website, and you can see how this is just a snapshot, a screenshot of our home page, and within this screenshot, now I can start interacting with it. Something that's kind of neat. So if you're talking about something on a particular website, you can actually load that as part of your View session and have students go at it and be able to provide comments around the actual web page, and so it's kind of neat in that way. And then the third type of thing you can do is upload a document, which is most typical. I uploaded a copy of our fall teaching technology series schedule, and you can see here it's just a document that has a screenshot, and what you can then do is you can have like you can have a highlighter, which is what I have here, and it highlights the parts of the document you want to talk about, or you can do a pencil, you can mark it up, or you can type notes on it. So essentially everything that you can do in the other two types of artifacts you can do with the document. So there's lots more I can probably talk about with View, but I need to move on so that I can finish up on the other tool. So this is View. So let me now shift over and talk about TeamViewer. Let me pull up that application here. So here you can see TeamViewer. Unfortunately, I'm not able to actually activate this meeting because the moment I activate it, it'll go blank on you because I'm already in a web conferencing mode with Adobe Connect, and if I were to start another one, it would conflict. So, so the thing I can do right now is just kind of quickly talk about the some of the features of TeamViewer. It essentially has some of the very, very similar things that you see in View or Adobe Connect. You could schedule a meeting, so which is right here. So if you want to, this is a nice feature where, let's say it's a very, you want to schedule a meeting for Monday at 2 o'clock. Just put it in, and it'll give you an option to allow you to. Let me see if there the window pops out. You can put in your time, start date, and then I believe the next window gives you the option to enter emails and so on, or it'll give you a URL link that you can then email it out to people. So you can schedule a bunch of meetings for the rest of the semester, and students can come in and see when the next meeting or when your next office hour is, and that could be very useful. I talked about earlier that it's mobile friendly, so you can participate via your smartphone or your tablet. I've done meeting recently using the meeting feature of TeamViewer, and someone was on an iPad and they were able to fully participate. I was able to hear them, they were able to hear me, that they were able to interact on the document. So it was very, very fully functional on a very limited device like an iPad. So and then finally, it also allows for webcam, if you want the sort of similar to Adobe Connect, where you have the audio as well as the video together. You can do that also in TeamViewer. And another just great plus I want to say again is it's free, up to 25 people per meeting, and so it's really a neat feature to be able to use. So I will now go back to my slides here and then try to wrap up in our remaining few minutes here. So that's just a very, very quick overview of the web conferencing tool. Here are some resources I uploaded. It's a link that are to take you to other web conferencing tool that you can explore. These are the first two links here. And then if you want ideas of other Web 2.0 tools, they're more than welcome to go to any of these links, and there are tons out there. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of them, and it really depends on what you're looking for. There's most definitely a tool for that. And then at the very bottom is some general resources about Web 2.0 from EDUCAUSE, which is an organization dedicated to instructional technology in higher ed. So it's a very useful set of resources there as well. And obviously I am available to consult and answer questions and anything about today's webinar or any previous webinar, or just generally the use of Web 2.0 tools or technology in teaching learning context. So my contact information is there, and you're more than welcome to contact me, and I would be happy to talk with you. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley, who will facilitate the Q&A and the rest of this webinar. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box located on the left-hand side of your screen.
All right, so I have Belinda asking, which have you been most satisfied with? I am most satisfied with Adobe Connect, because that's obviously it's a paid service, but it's a very robust tool set and tons of features, and then that's the one that we're using for our webinar. But obviously there's a cost involved. So, but if you're willing to compromise on features and some of the sort of the aesthetics, then I think View or Meeting, either one would do fine for a typical class session. So really it depends on what kind of tool set you're looking for. So yeah, another question I see from Belinda is, have you used the others, and if so, for what? So I've used View just on a test trial basis, and just to test out the sharing of documents and the annotating of documents. And I've used the TeamViewer meeting with students on, I was working on a project with students, and I used that as a way to kind of meet virtually instead of meeting face-to-face. And that worked well because it was very simple. We needed to just meet and look at I think a document or something and talk, and that was it. And so it was a very simple kind of setup, and there wasn't any need to have a chat, or I mean they do have chats in session, but there was just audio and watching and viewing a document, and that was what TeamViewer was great for. So so yeah, that would be it. So any other questions that you may have? Let's see. Bargrov, I hope you're pronouncing your name right. How can I access Adobe Connect? Can we access it through UCM license? Currently, the license that we have for the center is done through UC Davis, and we sort of we're like a subcontract of their. They have a campus license at UC Davis, but at UC Merced we don't at this point. So we have individual units that's subscribing to a sub-license from Davis. However, I think there's talks about there's a greater need for a web conferencing tool like Adobe Connect, and I think there might be some movement in terms of having a campus license here at UC Merced. And so, but there's nothing certain at this point. So I think at this point, if you want more information about how we got our license through UC Davis, I'll be more than happy to email that information to the contact person. I think right now it costs like $35, but I think they're raising their rates to like $50 a month. We've been very happy with it, and I think you can just, if you just need it for a certain limited period, you can just get it for that period and not have to pay for the whole year. So that's the other benefit. Any other questions that we can answer? All right, I think that's it, and I'm going to turn it back to.
Given that there are no more questions, we'll move on. If you're watching this as a recorded session, you can email your questions to Mike Trong. All teaching and technology series webinars, including this one, are archived and can be accessed on our center's website. There are no more future Web 2.0 webinars for this semester. The new fall schedule will be available in August. We'd love to get your feedback on today's webinar. The evaluation is anonymous, but your input is invaluable. We will push the evaluation to your browser, so please take a few minutes after the end of this webinar to complete it. Thanks for joining us today.